Hi, this is Asim.
This is Sujoy.
This is Amrita.
And you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast about the three main Khans of the Hindi film industry.
Amir,
Salman,
And Shara.
Hi, you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast regular feed. Thank you so much for your support over the years. We now have a Patreon channel with bonus content and exclusive merch for those of you who would like to support us. Every dollar goes towards creating more and better content. Visit us at patreon.com/Khandaan podcast.
Hi and welcome to a new episode of Khandaan Podcast. My name is Asim Bernie and I'm joined by my lovely co-host Amrita. Hey Amrita.
Hi, Asim.
Sujoy couldn't make it. He's in India, but we have an amazing guest with us. Our friend, like the best account to follow on Bollywood, Get Filmy. Hi Shakila. Welcome back to the Khandaan.
Hi, Asim. It's so good to be back. I really missed being on this podcast, talking to you guys.
We've been talking about how we need to get you back. Every time that you go off it, we're just but when are we getting Shakila back?
Yeah. I mean, I listen to you guys. I mean, I go on these binges of when I'll listen to 5 or 6 episodes in one go when I have the time and I'm in the mood. It's really, it's just like hanging out with friends, honestly. I'm sure that's how most listeners feel with your podcast. That's why it's the number one everywhere, which is amazing.
But you are literally hot take Twitter, right? That's who you are. Hottest take.
I try because it just gets so annoying when more and more as people find success online, you get less and less honest opinions, right? Everyone has something that they need to be careful about what they say. So literally all that's left is the fans who will say whatever they want, to get and of course fans have their own bias, but which is why I'm okay, let me be the Bollywood oracle. I don't know.
Yeah. So we've got a ton of things to talk about. Our main part is we're going to be talking about Farzi, the Shahid Kapoor streaming show on Prime. Shahid Kapoor, Vijay Sethupathi. I mean, I gotta say both of them. And then we're going to be talking a lot about The Romantics. If you are a Patreon subscriber, you'll get a longer version of this episode where we will be talking about some of the new songs and the trailers that drop. So if you want to listen to that part, sign up from $1 and then you can get the full version of this episode. But Amrita, we want to plug something first, right?
Yes, we want to plug actually 2 things. One is our newsletter, which we've mentioned in our earlier episodes. The first newsletter should be in your inboxes this week, right before this episode drops. But we are trying to get people to subscribe to our newsletter because we have a bunch of plans for it. So for this month, we are giving away 2 copies of the Bones and All Blu-ray starring Timothy Chalamet. It's already with Asim, and basically we're going to be choosing 2 listeners from the people who subscribe to the newsletter, and then we'll ship it worldwide wherever you are. And then basically the idea is that the newsletter is going to be a place where we can advertise our giveaways because we get a lot of those. And sometimes they're Bollywood themed, sometimes they're Hollywood themed. It depends on what PR people are sending to us that particular month. But also it's a great way for us to streamline our meetups because we've been doing that we've done a couple so far, and we've had other people ask about organizing it in their own towns. And that leads me to our second plug, which is that we are having a big London meetup with all 3 of us, Sujoy, Asim, and myself, in April. So we're not yet sure if it's going to be Sunday, the 23rd of April or Saturday, the 29th of April. We are still sort of debating the dates and everything. But yeah, it's going to be, I think, probably like the only movie that's going to be out then is Ponniyin Selvan 2. But we might watch a movie and then have a little bit of a live recording maybe. Maybe it just be like, what we've done before, which is that we all just sort of gather and hang out. But yeah, all three of your favorite hosts, that's us, in case you were wondering. But all three of us will be available, and it's just, fun time. So if you want details on that, or if you want to arrange meetups in your own city, etc., then please do subscribe to our newsletter at khandaan.substack.com. And we promise that we're not going to like bother you and like send you like stuff that you don't need all the time and like clog up your inbox. It's not going to be that kind of a newsletter. It's just a more streamlined way for us to be in touch with our listeners, basically.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting. Shakila, I'm so sorry. Are you thinking of joining us in April? Are you flying out to London just to meet us?
No, unfortunately, London this April will not be happening. Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to. It would be amazing, but it's a little like it's too soon for me this April.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be awesome though if we could like just travel all of our friends together and like just hang out like basically what this podcast has become, but we do that in real life like actual people.
That would be so good.
Yeah. So let's get into the show a little bit. The show we watched, you and me, Shakila, and Amrita, you didn't get a chance to watch, is Farzi, right?
Yes.
Amrita, how come you didn't watch it? I thought you were super excited.
I had a friend in town all of last week. She literally left last night. So I've just spent, and I needed to watch Jab Tak Hai Jaan, like I hadn't watched it. And that's a long movie. So
It is.
So that's how I spent my morning today. So I didn't get a chance. And I didn't want to rush through Farzi because I've heard really great things about it. And I want to like enjoy it. And I don't want to watch it like homework. Right. So I'm going to be watching it right after this podcast. So maybe I'll tell the Patreons like what I felt about the series later.
Good idea. Shakila, what did you think? I think we were talking a little bit about it on Twitter, right? And I think we had like a bit of a difference in opinion about the show. But what were your thoughts on Farzi?
Yeah, I think it's what Amrita just said right now, which is that she doesn't want to rush through it or like watch it like it's homework. Like I have to watch it because I have to review it. I really think that's not like, it's hard to enjoy this particular show with that mindset. Because I think it's very classic Rajan DK, but unlike The Family Man, it's not like super flashy right away. Like it takes its time and like they're not shy to take their time. So like I've seen many people like you, I saw us in your tweet was that after 2 episodes, you were a bit like, what's the big deal? And like, I don't find that surprising at all because somewhere even I was like, okay, this is kind of, I wasn't getting that big buzz that I got from The Family Man. But because I love Rajan DK so much and there was enough of that classic humor of that like deadpan kind of quirky thing that they do where it's like the thing I love best about them, especially in these long form formats, is that you think you're going into this like dramatic scenario and then they pull the rug out from under your feet and they turn it into like this comedy thing, but somehow they still maintain the balance of the drama. Like it's really incredible what they do. But like I said, with Farzi, it's kind of like a show you need to savor and kind of, they're not in a rush to get anywhere very quickly. It's more like, no, let's hang with these characters. And it's always like the moments that don't even necessarily advance the plot that are like the most entertaining or the funniest, for me anyway. And I think that's the thing. Like one, I think you have to be kind of a little bit of a Rajan DK fan to stick with it. If you stick, I don't know how you felt after you got in like 4 or 5 episodes in. Because after that, I feel like it's pretty bingeable. Like you want to you want to keep going and see what's happening. There's more action that happens, the crazy heists that happen. But yeah, overall, it doesn't surprise me that a lot of people like gave up on it, but I personally really, really loved it. Yeah.
As usual, I form my opinion without watching the full show, just like me. And honestly, I think what you're saying is correct. I think it starts much slower than The Family Man does. It takes a while to get going, but at the end, it did win me over. And I think it's because of Raj and DK's persistence to be Raj and DK the whole time, And I think that really wins me over, because I had really high expectations of this huge casting coup that they have of, Shahid Kapoor and Vijay Sethupathi, like first time streaming, first time together. And I was kind of hoping that there would be like a quicker clash between these two, character actors. And I think Raj and Diki are very in control of the storytelling, and you need to have faith in them and where they're taking you. And at the end, the ride is actually quite fun. But at the start, you just cannot. I was having trouble because I was making these comparisons with Family Man, and it's very different. I was also thinking a lot of like movies like Catch Me If You Can, the Spielberg movie, because it's about counterfeiting and heists and stuff like that. And it was kind of really, really slow for me. And another mistake I did is I watched our friend Suchin Mehrotra's review on Film Companion about it. And when somebody says something and then it sticks in your head and then you cannot let it go anymore, he made this point about how the show always cuts away whenever Vijay Sethupathi is talking. Like the dialogue is like shot from the back. You can't see him say the dialogues, and it just started grating me because he put that thought in my mind. But it kind of like you get over it after you're 6-7 episodes in. And Amrita, I mean, you're gonna start watching it. I wouldn't suggest binging this show. I would suggest taking your time with it. Watching maybe one episode a day and like stretching it out and letting it kind of marinate in your mind. Because if you just go through it in one go, I'm not sure it's going to deliver what you want it to deliver. But, I mean, I still had issues with it. Like, the friend character, he really annoyed me. The Feroz character.
No! He was like
people
my
love
favorite
him.
thing.
I mean, people love him. He's like the breakout character, and he just didn't work for me because he was just so incompetent. Like, I couldn't understand why he was with him, what he was good at. And, it just like, it didn't work for me, but he seems to be kind of the breakout out of this whole show, right?
Yeah. Everyone's been complimenting, Bhuvan Arora is his name. I loved Feroz, and I actually thought they did that, bonding very nicely, like the backstory. Amrita, are you going to care that we're spoiling this for you?
Not really. Like, I don't really mind spoilers.
I mean, well, I won't go too much into it, but they did establish the bond in that backstory, right? Like, it's just they're just together, and it's like an old school Bollywood dosti. Like,
exactly.
I'll do anything for you, I'll die for you. And I thought he was hilarious. I think his comic timing is just perfect in those like little throwaway scenes that don't even have anything to do with like the main plot, but he's just like several times in the show I just burst out laughing when I was least expecting to, and that's why I enjoyed it. What's funny though, what didn't work for me weirdly is Vijay Sethupathi. And like most people know, I'm a huge fan in the sense that I haven't seen even 2% of his filmography, but just his presence is insane to me. Like, he has such presence, he just needs to show up on screen and it's like he eats up the frame. But I felt like, here, I felt like he was a little bit of like a square peg in a round hole. Like, he wasn't exactly fitting. Like, everyone else was going with the flow of this Raj and DK fabric and pitch and tone. And VJS was kind of in his own zone. He was like still doing his own thing, which I think for about 4 episodes I was like, oh, why isn't it hitting? Why does he seem so kind of out of sorts and not quite fitting? But then I think after that, I kind of got used to it, and I feel like it started to gel and it started to work. And he made it work. But I found what my kind of takeaway from that is that he did his own thing. He didn't really blend in the way Shahid and Bhuvan and Zakir Hussain and all the other, with the Rashi Khanna, all these people kind of blended it in with the fabric and became part of the Raj and DK canvas. But VJS was still VJS, you know? And then by the time it gets halfway in, it's all working somehow. That was my takeaway, yeah.
Rashi Khanna was the standout for me. I thought she was really the MVP. I loved her. And apparently I've seen her work, but she never stood out for me as much as she did here. I was going, like, I was like, is this a new actress? I had to go to IMDb, and she's been acting for a long time, and I've seen her work before. But the way she stands out here, I think she's like probably the best part of it. I think the problem with Vijay, and I think I have the same problem with Shahid's character, I just don't understand their arc as a character. Like, you know, like Shahid, he wants people to see his art, and I don't think that's anywhere reflected in the show. But then he also has this thing where he wants to fall in love and be with girls, like he'll give everything up for girls or something. Like his Firoz kind of says that, and I didn't see the basis. Also just his styling, like he looks the same when he's poor or he's rich. He just looks cool ass sexy Shahid, and I just thought that was like kind of weird that they don't kind of upgrade him when they become like literal millionaires. And also same thing with Vijay. Is like he's a divorced dad and he's an alcoholic, but he really loves his son, and I don't know why. Like I didn't see any love with that son. Like that son, like just look like a little dweeb to me, you know. So again, like these are like very stereotypical characters, but I don't think the arc of the characters was really well done, and I think that's where it took me a while in the show to kind of get engaged, because the main two characters aren't really working, but all of the supporting cast is so good, and those are the real characters. Like Zakir Hussain, you're saying, he's like pretty amazing in this year. He's so funny. And a very different kind of corrupt politician he's playing, right? Like we've seen that archetype so many times before, but they do something interesting with it. Even Rashi Khanna's character, it's like a go-getter girl, but I think there's something fresh and new in it, where I didn't feel that with the main characters, why we're signing up to the show.
I really loved I was very surprised with the dating scenes, like the faux dating scenes with Rashi and Shahid. I thought they were so, like, because I'm very picky about how romance is portrayed, especially in like Hindi films, shows, situations. And like it's either too like clinical and they take all the romance out of it, or it's too cringy. But here I felt like they struck the balance so nicely for it to be like this modern dating situation, but it actually was it was warm, you know, and it was fun and it was thing. So I was really surprised to see that from Raj and DK. So I thought that chemistry worked really well. And then, of course, the banter between Zakir Hussain and Vijay's character was just, I mean, it took me a bit to warm up to it, because people were raving about that from day one. And I was like, I don't really see it. But then by the time it gets in, like I said, 4 episodes in, it was like the funniest thing. Yeah, like like when they brought the old ships, like the ships that go to die, I was like, okay, they must have read that in an article somewhere or something. You know, it's like, how do you even come up with that? But I was gonna say about Shahid's arc. That arc actually worked for me. I think the main line there was his relationship with Amol Palekar's character, his Nanu, right? That is the thing that was driving him from the beginning. And yet he also had like this not so noble side to him, where it was like, no, I also just want to be rich. And he has this kind of like, you know, that moral battle of his own conscience within him, that I thought the ending, like that last shot, was just like brilliant to me. I felt like it all came together at that moment. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, you're right. It's kind of like, okay, what does this guy want? I don't get it. He's like up and down, you know. He's sentimental about Amul, his Nanu at one point, and then he's like off with much. Oh, can we talk about KK Menon? Hello.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yes.
How hilarious.
That's what I'm saying. It's all the supporting cast is so good, right? KK Menon is amazing in this.
So flamboyant, so good, so hilarious, but also so menacing. Again, that fine Raj and DK balance where they just know how to juggle all of that, like so perfectly.
Amrita, where do you stand on Shahid Kapoor?
I don't hate him, but am I going to go out of my way to see something by him? No.
When I was speaking with Shakila about it, like somewhere he lost me as a you know, somebody who looks forward to his work, and I don't know exactly when that happened. And he just everything he does now seems very fake to me on screen. Like nothing works. Even like the way he says Nanu annoyed me. Like, it was like all of these little things. Like, he keeps calling Amol Palekar Nanu, and it just annoyed the crap out of me. And it's not normal. Like, these are not feelings I usually have. And I remember I used to be really excited for Shahid's movies back in the day. And somewhere he's just kind of lost me. I don't know where it is. And I was really wondering if he can even do a streaming show.
That's not me, so I can't help you with that. I thought he was excellent in Jab We Met. I thought he was pretty good in Heather. I really enjoyed him in Kamine. So there are like certain performances that I really enjoyed of his, but yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about him.
Yeah,
Shakira, you were going to say something?
He's never been an actor that I look forward to or that I'm excited about in any way, shape, or form. I've always said, like, he's solid. He's a solid actor. He's a reliable actor. But he's just something about him is just bland and like very milk toasty, like vanilla. Like you just forget about him somehow. Like he does the job and then like he leaves your mind, you know? I don't think he ever does a bad job necessarily. I don't know that he's been like terrible in anything. Well, maybe other than Padmavat, where he was really sad. But you know, but other than that, it's just like he does his job, and then you forget about him somehow. That's how I perceive him.
Yeah. So it took me a while to kind of get into the character, but when I latched on to the story and, you know, Raj and DK's rhythm and the supporting cast, the show actually really worked for me. And I do think the ending is really, really good. So if you make it till there, it's kind of worth the ride.
Yeah.
So is it set up for a sequel, or is it like one and done?
No, definitely story should continue. Yeah. If they, and I think it's quite successful, right? I think I saw it's one of the most streamed shows of the year or something PR related that Amazon Prime dropped. I'm not 100% sure.
You know, I'm betting on the fact that one of the Khans is going to come on a streaming show within the next 18 months.
You think?
Or at least announcing it.
Yeah. But you know it's not going to be Salman, right? Like, it's not going to be him. So it has to be Amir or Shah Rukh. It might be Amir then, no? Like, if we're taking bets.
But I'm pretty sure, like, one of them is going to
If it's a series... Sorry, I was going to say, if it's a series, I would maybe Amir. And that wouldn't be bad at all. I think that would be quite nice.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them have anything left to prove. I mean, Shah Rukh, you know, like Pathaan is a runaway train. Like, it's literally like people are still watching it like 4 weeks out, and it's not showing any signs of stopping whatsoever. So, like, he can absolutely, it's not like he's going to go on streaming and everybody will like, oh, like Shah Rukh can't hack it in, you know, mainstream cinema anymore. That's why he's on OTT. So, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Did you see the little video I posted of Raj and DK? They were actually talking about that they were speaking to a star about a feature film, and it was very clearly they were talking about Shah Rukh. But because what they said is that this star advised us that, look, if you're going to work with me, it's going to be a long run. Like, it's going to take a while. And two, you have to hold on to this story idea, because if you work with me, it's going to, like, people are going to try and dilute it or change it or, thing it. And so you have to protect your story. So it's like,
and Shah Rukh is speaking from experience, because that happened to him pretty consistently over the past 10 years.
Yeah. And especially because Raj and DK have such a distinctive voice. It's like, if they lose that, there's no point. So he was saying that. But yeah, so they were in talks with him for a feature film. I don't know about a series, but yeah, it would be very, very cool.
Okay, let's move on to the next thing that dropped, is The Romantics, which literally has set Bollywood Twitter on fire. Nobody's talking about anything. It's not even Twitter. It's like Instagram. It's TikTok. It's like all people can talk about. Amrita, let's start with you. What did you think of The Romantics?
First of all, I was just as excited as everyone else. And you know how I said I didn't have time to watch Farzi because my friend was in town? Well, I somehow found the time to watch The Romantics, however. I would wake up early and like watch it on my phone is like how much I wanted to watch it. I kind of feel stupid a little bit because I honestly thought that this would be more Yash Chopra focused. And obviously it was more Adi Chopra and YRF focused, which makes sense, this is a PR exercise. I can see it. It's a very skillfully executed PR exercise. But it is, as always, like with anything that is classic Bollywood, and you don't get more classic Bollywood than YRF, let's be real. It's very interesting. It's almost more interesting to see the reactions to the series than like actually watching it. Although the series was great, like with everyone else, I'm also like, where is Rekha? Where is Wahida Rahman? Where is Shamla Tagore? Where is I want to see more of Juhi. Why was Amir there? Like, Amir just showed up to just say that that he was a nepo baby, and then he disappeared. I really felt bad for Shah Rukh, like that part where Yash Chopra has died and the other guy's like talking about like, I lost my father, and Shah Rukh says, I lost my father as well. And he's like they don't focus on Shah Rukh, but they're just showing Shah Rukh on the couch, and he's just very anxious and like sort of twisted over. And I'm like, how many times are people going to ask Shah Rukh to, talk about his grief when he really doesn't want to talk about it? But like, it seems like every year, someone or the other will come and like poke at his wounds, and I just felt really bad for him. And also, it was really great to hear Adi Chopra like actually talk for once, because my God, so much makes sense now. Like I mean, we'll come to that in a bit, but yeah, I have a lot of things to say, you guys.
Shakila, you go, and should we decide which accent we're doing this review in?
I thought that was such a cool way for Uday to start. I mean,
I love him.
I love him too. Yeah, I love him too. But I mean, the fact that he had so much footage in this documentary, like, goes to show what they were really kind of aiming at, right? Like, it was really Uday and Adi and the family. Like, a lot of time was spent on that. So I guess, like, even though a lot of us were hoping for, Yash Chopra and his early films, that was just really just the introduction to like the whole journey of the brothers, possibly. But yeah, like I said, I watched it twice, and it's so moving. Like, what struck me is like those interviews that Shah Rukh was doing with Yash Chopra at that, what was that, Yash Raj Film Festival or something?
No, it was the promotion for Jab Tak Hai Jaan.
Right.
And this is because I remember that interview while I was watching The Romantics, and as soon as I finished watching The Romantics, I went and watched the entire interview, which is on the YRF channel, because that was a good interview.
Did you see Shah Rukh's face when Yash Chopra said he's not directing anymore? Shah Rukh, when he holds his grief, he does like a thing with his mouth, and The thing is with Shah Rukh, we know him so well. We've literally spent like, halves of our lives like watching the guy on screen, maybe even more. Like everything he holds into, like you're saying about, like the romantics didn't explain what he meant with, I lost my dad, but we know what that means, right? Like if you are an outsider watching that documentary, it's just like a throwaway line. But for us, you know what that means, and you know what that mouth twist means for Shah Rukh when, Yash says, I'm not going to direct anymore. I broke my heart. It was so sad to see that.
No, I like literally teared up both times. Like, I'm like, why am I crying? Like, literally, like for Yash Chopra, really, it's like, and again, you think about like the role art plays in your life, and like these movies, these images, this man and what he stood for. Like even now, I'm not lying, guys. Like I am getting emotional. Like I don't understand. Like what is this relationship? What's it called? What's the term, Amrita?
Parasocial. Parasocial relationships.
That thing. It's quite amazing.
I just love that on Twitter, everybody was feeling different emotions about this documentary. Like, but overall, it was love. But it was like, why didn't they focus on the music? Why didn't they focus on this? Why did I like, here are 70 screenshots of movies with Shah Rukh. There are 50 threads with Yash Chopra talking about women. It was everybody talking about different things, but like, the love that was there for, this, it's not even Yash Raj. It's not even, the studio, or Adi Chopra. It's about Bollywood. And I think that feeling of love is something we were missing. And there's no better summary of Bollywood than, YRF is. Although, if you look at all of the movies, not all of them have worked for me. Even Yash Chopra's film, it's not like all of them are my personal favorite films. Like was it Uday or was saying about Chandni? Shah Rukh was saying about Chandni. I had that same emotion. My sister used to put No No Chudiya on all the time, and it used to annoy the crap out of me. I don't want to watch it. I want to watch Dishum Dishum, But, it just has such importance for so many people. And it's interesting also that we had, Cinema Marte Dam Tak like 2 weeks before that released. And it's like seeing both sides of the film industry, like the glossy money side and then, the no budget kind of side. But overall, there is still such a, love for Hindi cinema, which I think is really good. And I also just like the fact that, documentaries are getting kind of more of a kind of a spotlight on them, because it's literally my favorite thing watching documentaries about movies, and I don't feel there's been that many good ones out in Bollywood yet, and I think this one was pretty damn amazing. Even though what Amrita you are saying, it is a very controlled PR piece, right, to shape the narrative and the movies that they chose to talk about, the movies that they didn't talk about. Also, like I felt it the strongest in episode 3 when it's directly addressing nepotism. Because that's kind of the nepotism episode. And I feel that one was very crafted and put together as kind of putting a narrative in there and kind of putting Uday Chopra as, like throwing him a bit under the bus, like, see, we didn't make him happen. So we're not that bad, are we? But I thought it was really well done. Like, I don't think I can't say it's negative, but Shakira, I remember you were saying that, the PR piece is a bit overblown, like that it's a PR piece, that take is a bit overblown, right? Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's produced by YRF Entertainment. It's not going to be like the dark side of Adi Chopra, like obviously there's a dark side, like whatever little rumors here and there. This is why I want to hear what Amrita thought about Aditya Chopra, really. Because, like she said, it gave a lot of insight, even though it was like candy-coated and rose-colored lenses, but it still gave a lot of insight behind this man and how YRF works. I want to hear what Amrita thought about Aditya, actually.
Well, one is that it really came across that this is a man who has like a singular vision for what he wants to achieve. And he really is, like, I get now why everybody talks about him with so much respect, because God knows he's done a lot of shady stuff in the past. And I'm just like, I don't understand why, like, everybody in Bollywood is all like, oh my God, Adi Chopra. But then you hear him talk about it, and he really is like, you know, like one of those charismatic startup leaders who have like a vision, and not just a vision, but also have an idea of how their particular idea fits in to the mosaic of like what's happening globally. And I can only imagine like how difficult it must have been for him to get YRF to the place where it is now, compared to the kind of industry that his father made his bones in, you know? So I think that the documentary did a really great job of showing that these kids, you know, Uday and Adi, and them growing up in a very particular kind of Bollywood that doesn't exist anymore. You know, all those photos that they had of the birthday parties and everything, like that was really cute. But it really tells you, like, I had no idea Kunal Kapoor was, you know, like friends with all of them. But I guess like he went to school with Hrithik, and that's why he was invited to all the filmy parties. So that was one thing. Like, I understand now why Adi Chopra is the sacred fawn of Bollywood. But the other thing that really, you know, like made me understand why a lot of YRF stuff isn't connecting with me is that Adi Chopra seems to have an idea of where entertainment is headed, and he seems to be trying to like be the tastemaker that delivers it first, which you can see it with Dhoom, where he's talking about like, you know, like take away the three pillars of your basic Hindi cinema, and then, you know, give the people something glitzy with lots of explosions and like sexy people, and, you know, watch it make a lot of money. And I think that worked for him for a while, but he really came a cropper with Befikre, and it's really interesting to me to hear him say why he tried to make Befikre, because what he said was he wanted to make a rom-com without the emotional investment, and he thought that the Indian audience would be ready for like a rom-com that didn't have like melodrama or like necessarily like drama, and would be like nice and breezy and just fun. And I'm like, you don't understand what a rom-com is. Like, part of it is like calm, yes, but there's definitely a rom, and you don't have the rom without the emotional investment. Like, if I don't connect with what I'm watching on screen, the romance doesn't work, and then all I have is the calm. So that was one thing, but also it's really interesting to me to see the episode where we are talking about Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, and we hear like Aditya talking about like how he didn't want any old people on set, and he wanted to make something for the youth, and then that was his focus. And then he's trying to do that again with Big Fikre, but he has no idea what the youth are. So, I mean, the youth, I mean, we are on Twitter, all three of us are on Twitter all the time, and we know what the youth are like. And the youth are like obsessed with Karan Johar movies, and not even like later Karan Johar movies, but like K3G, like that's their Bible. Those are not people who are going to respond to Befikre. I'm sorry, but like that's never gonna happen. And I don't really understand, like, maybe I understand a little bit, but I wouldn't say that I fully understand how we ended up raising an entire generation like that. But when I was watching Jab Tak Hai Jaan, for instance, for our next episode, it really, like, Aditya Chopra wrote the screenplay for it, and there are some lines that Anushka says, and we'll discuss that in that episode, but there are some lines that Anushka says, and she she says it in form of exposition, like, I am a young person and this is what my life is like. And
I wrote the line down because I want to read it in the podcast.
We'll be talking about it extensively, trust. But like, he literally has no idea what a young person is. And it's very like, how do you do, fellow kids? That came through very clearly through this documentary.
But also just the insight that the guy has that maybe Bollywood, the audience is ready to watch a rom-com without an emotional investment, but they're not ready to see it from me. And I think that is a mind. Like, first of all, just the fact that they can get Adi to do this. Like, what a casting coup and what a cliffhanger to hook you from after episode 1. Like, just showing the empty chair and Adi is coming and everybody's reaction. Amazing filmmaking, amazing way to, make something bingeable, which is so important. And this is made from the same people that did Indian matchmaking. So they know how to work this medium really, really well.
Do you know how they got him though, finally? It was a very cool story. Apparently he wasn't ready to do it. He had not given his nod that I will do the interview. So they started putting all the other clips together, right? Like the other interviewees and the clips and the editing and all this. And then they were like, okay, well, let's do an interview for his personal archive, right? So they did this whole interview, apparently for his personal archive. But then what they did when they were putting the documentary together is they edited those portions in. And then they showed it to him, right? And they said, look, if we take out your interview, the whole soul of this documentary is gone. And that's how they got him to agree.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Wow.
And good on him to say, like, I think I was did you listen to that podcast with her name is what? Smriti Mundra or something? Yeah. I heard that story on a podcast, and she says that, what's most important for Adi is kind of the creative vision of something. And good on him to say, okay, I sign off, this is okay, when clearly he does not want to be in front of the camera. And that takes a lot out of you when you don't want to do it and you still okay it on such a big, platform. And the thing is, I understand him so much better now than I ever did. Also why he doesn't want to be on screen, why he is on screen now, and just his mind. It's amazing. It kind of really I fell off my chair listening to the guy, like how smart he is and how clear his mind is about cinema and studio and production and things like that. And also when he was talking about the Disney takeover and that he didn't want to do that. And we know so many other things, right? Like not releasing any movies in the last year because they wanted to hold off in theater. All of that now makes sense now that you've listened to the man talk for 3 episodes, right?
I mean, he's a contrarian. This is the coolest thing about him, is that he's always looking to subvert. So, like, when he did Dhoom, like, nobody else was doing movies like that. And then when I think my favorite part of that was, like, how they start episode 4 with Amitabh Bachchan saying, like, that lawyer dude was like, you better go back to your own country because the Americans are coming. I loved that. I thought that was so cool. And then, for Aditya Chopra in that kind of era to be like, no, I want my own studio. Like, that is badass, I have to say. Like, that is just badass. Because you can imagine the temptation, right? Like, the rest of the industry, they all fell for that. They all ran after the big studios and the big money and everything, like Kejo was explaining. Like, Kejo himself did. But to stand against that and be like, no, I'm going to have my own studio is just so badass.
Also, he was like very, like, I really liked what he had to say about like him and his father, and about his father coming from a more humble background versus him growing up as a rich South Bombay kid, and how that changed both how they understood the world and the cinema as a business. but also the risks that he was willing to take versus the risk that his dad was, trying to take at the beginning of his career.
And again, also the insight that he says, I'm a rich kid, I'm okay with taking those risks. Again, like an insight to himself that I feel a lot of people don't necessarily have, that kind of thing, What were the things that you wish you saw in the documentary that you didn't see, for example? Amrita, anything that you had that you were like, I wish I saw this and it wasn't there?
I don't think people really got a sense of just how big Yash Chopra was to, the way the Hindi cinema developed in the 70s. We spent a little bit of time on Diwar, for instance. No, not Diwar, Daag. We talked a little bit about Daag as his first film. But this man directed Diwar. He did Trishul, which has one of the most famous lines ever written by Salim Javed. He did Kala Patthar, which was one of my favorite Amitabh Bachchan movies. But I mean, they didn't really talk about so many different things. And Rekha needed to be there because Rekha was really close. Jaya Bachchan was really close. Jaya Bachchan was his assistant director on, Kabhi Kabhi. There were so many women that needed to be in that. And instead, we got, Bhumi, which, good for her, I guess, but would I rather have heard from Waheeda Rehman? Yes, 100 million times. So that was something that I feel was a huge. But one more thing that I really enjoyed was that when when the end of the documentary, the song that they played was Labon Ka Karabar, which I have not heard since Befikre came out. But it was so perfect in that, while the montage was playing, it was just really great. But yeah, I think we could have spent at least 2 episodes on Yash Chopra and then moved on to whatever Adi Chopra was trying to do. Yeah.
I did learn, I still feel I learned more, we literally do a Bollywood podcast. We've been watching movies so long, but there were still things that I learned that I didn't necessarily know because I mean, I was young when, I had no idea that Mashal flopped. I didn't know Silsila flopped. I knew it didn't do well, but that it literally broke their heart. And that whole period, I didn't know about that because I was literally 3 years old when that happened. And those movies, they were always playing at home. We had the VHS and I was constantly watching them, and I didn't know that these movies flopped and how badly he took it and what kind of person he was. I also love, I'd always known that, but it hadn't been formulated. Here they say that, Yash Chopra didn't see a difference between the Punjab of Pakistan and the one in India. And I know that from his movie, but I'd never seen it formulated that clearly. And it kind of gave me even more context about the man, which I thought was really cool. Shakila, anything that you wish you saw that you didn't saw? I generally feel there wasn't not that much input from women in general. Maybe I'm wrong, but,
yeah, no, many people felt like that. I mean, like Amrita was saying, the real, the yesteryear actresses, but I feel like they would have if they could have. I think it's hard to get, certainly from Rekha, for instance, to get approval would probably be pretty, a very uphill task. I would have, like everyone's saying, I would have liked to see a little bit more time spent on Yash Chopra's films and the actors who worked with him. I don't think, I love Uday, but I don't think I needed that much insight on him and what he's been doing.
What has he been doing after Grace of Monaco, though? I still don't know.
Is that even...
Because Grace of Monaco was 10 years ago or something? What has he done since?
I guess the Romantics now. But, Anushka, Bhumi, Aishwarya was missing. I would have liked to see more from Madhuri, from... But it's like, I guess they weren't really going in that angle, you know? But then again, they gave Ranveer a lot of footage, which I partly understand because he was like their one like huge launch apart from Anushka. But then again, it's like, well, why not give Anushka the same footage, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah, all of that was a lot of imbalance there.
So Rani being there was a little bit weird to me. Like, she, I get it. Like, she's Aditya Chopra's wife. She was in Bunty or Bubbly. She's very much part of the, like Yash Raj as a studio sort of emergent story. But it was just really funny because she never worked with Yash Chopra. Like, she was never a Yash Chopra heroine. Katrina was.
Veer Zara.
Oh, but that's not. Preeti was the Yash Chopra heroine. She was, true. She was just there. But, like, she was, Katrina was the last Yash Chopra heroine, and we'll again talk about that when we talk about Jab Tak Hai Jaan. But Katrina got to speak like 2 lines.
But the thing with Rani, I think that why they position her, besides that she's the wife, I think she's the one that's worked the most with the Yash Raj as a studio. Like, movies that have been produced by them, that's not directed by either of them. She's done the most movies, Mardani and all these other ones that she's done, like Hum Tum and all that. But she's not been directed by Yash Chopra. That's true, though.
Except, like, her whole vibe was like, did you see, Shakila, did you notice her ring? Like, a giant, like, I married a rich man ring. It was hilarious. Like, there she is sitting in that very, like, filmy study sort of a thing. And then she has this, Mount Rushmore on her hand. It is a total vibe. Like, I just laughed every time she came on screen. But also, they didn't interview Arjun Kapoor and Parineeti Chopra, and they were like major launches.
Vani,
Arjun was a little bit in it.
Yeah, what happened to Vani?
Yeah, like Vani was such a big deal for YRF, and I feel like for Adi Chopra especially, because they really were like hanging on to her for what, I mean, I don't know what they wanted to do with her, but they were really holding on to her. I mean, there's probably a bit of a story there.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. It was very like, making fetch happen with poor Vani. Yeah.
I think they wanted to position her as the new Katrina. I think that's what they were hoping for, and I don't think it's happened, unfortunately, for her yet. So, yeah. I just had some random thoughts that I wanted to like talk about that we haven't like I saw a lot of people were annoyed that Lily Singh was in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was so bizarre. NRI perspective.
Her line, the NRI aspect of that we are seeking the approval of our parents for all of our life, it did kind of work for me. I understood where she was coming from.
Yeah.
Because in a way, I am also that person, having grown up outside. And so I get why they were trying to get like the international audience and somebody who speaks for the youths, But also, I don't hate Lily Singh as much as a lot of people seem to do. So, although I don't watch any of her stuff, so maybe that's why I don't hate her. But I thought it was fine. Like, if you need, like, it was that or Priyanka Chopra, right? Like,
oh boy.
I'm almost glad that they went with Lily Singh then. Or Mindy Kaling, They could have gone Mindy Kaling route,
One of the things that I what really stood out for me was Anupam Kher talking about how much he loved Yash Chopra and how he would always have breakfast with him when he was in Mumbai. And I was like, Besharam Beg Hairat, like,
I was honestly like, what is wrong with you guys? It's like you're like this, in this interview, and you have all these warm relationships. Like, he does it with Shah Rukh too. And it's like, dude, what is your problem then? Like, I don't understand. Like, what is the dynamic there? This two-facedness, I just don't get it.
I can't stand them.
Yeah, how do they compartmentalize those things, right? Like being with these guys and then just being a hate monger on the side. Like, it's my side hustle to just spread hate, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, what I thought it was interesting, all of the names that have just kind of got lost in the hustle, like Kunal Kohli, Sanjay Gadvi, these kind of names that were like, he made f***ing Doom, man. And we get to interview Vijay Krishna Acharya, but not the guy that actually made Doom. It was just like a weird kind of thing that, there was a lot of trials and error. Like now it seems like a polished, finished product, YRF, but we had Parampara in between, right? Like there were a lot of messy years.
A lot of messy years, a lot of flops as well. I mean, that's one thing I missed. I wish they'd they kind of did it for like, I guess that the 2007 and 8, which was really just leading up to Rabne. But I mean, they have a lot of misfires during that period, as well as like obviously, I mean, I guess this year was too soon for them to cover, but like even in the middle there, they had a lot of like mediocre kind of mid films that weren't doing so well.
And as the representative of the Salman Collective, I have to say, major disrespect to only give him literally one line.
Even Salim
the man gave Hollywood Marigold. Put some respect on his name, first of all. And then secondly, he literally saved YRF with the Tiger franchise, right? So maybe he's not the greatest of interviews or something like that, but like literally one line, like that was I felt a bit cheated there.
Like Salim Khan got more lines than Salman.
Yeah.
He got 2 lines or something. And one of them was, don't ask if Salman is going to get married. Like, hello. Nobody would want that anymore.
Yeah, nobody cares. Like, we've moved on, and also, want to shout out Anushka Sharma's dress. I thought that was like the prettiest thing I've ever seen. I don't know anything about dresses. I don't know if it's nice or not. I thought she looked radiant in it. Whatever that shiny thing she was wearing, I thought she looked amazing in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, any other things? Any random thoughts? I have a what's up with Ayushmann Khurrana's hair. I don't know why I wrote this down, but it seemed like he was, like Legos have that like hair that you stick on top of the thing. That's what his hair looked like. But anyway.
He's sweet though. Like you can tell like the love. Even Ranbir, like when Ranbir was describing watching DDLJ, like it felt like Disneyland. It was like, yes, a lot of the Yash Raj films, for me, the old ones, like Lamhe, Dil To Pagal Hai, like that era was like, I don't know, I'm watching some magical thing that like feels like Disneyland. He hit that on the head. And then like Bichari Poonam Dhillon, like what was the point of
they didn't have Rekha, but they had Poonam Dhillon.
Rishi and Neetu also kind of like got to me watching them together. Yeah. Like I didn't expect it, and that was kind of sweet.
Yeah, Rishi was very bittersweet.
The thing with Rishi is though, like he will tell you the truth as he remembers it, and he will say it even if it casts him in a bad light. So when he's talking about like how he really didn't want to do Kabhi Kabhi, and then like Shashi Kapoor, like twisted his arm, and like now he's very grateful, etc. Like like that's a classic Rishi Kapoor move where he's just like, this is exactly what happened.
Yeah, that was good. And he, you know how he paused and when she mentioned and Neetuji mentioned like you wanted my role, like in a kind of jovial tone, and he was like, no, I had my own thing going on, like I had my own story about that. And he was like, yeah, I wanted your role because it was the better role.
To wrap it up, Shakila, what's the next Bollywood documentary you want to see?
I want to see like The Romantics Part 2. I want them to go into a deeper dive with this.
Yes.
Like the early years, I don't know, just something like go deeper, interview the right people, interview the writers, the directors, the technicians, all the actors.
YRF is actually really good with their behind the scenes things. Like
they've got a great archive.
They've been doing it since DDLJ, I think, and it's all gold. Like even with Pathaan, like that came out just now, like it's really great. It's just fun to watch all the BTS stuff. So they can.
I love how much they respect their technicians. Honestly, like Pathaan has been great to see with that. How they just pushed forward their technicians as like the post-release marketing. Just really nice. Yeah.
Amrita, which documentary do you want to see next?
Like what Shakila said, like I want to see like other stuff. Like this is like if you want to remind people what Bollywood is, like just do another series of this. Maybe do one about like their music, like just talk about like how YRF, I think like the two studios that, Navketan as well. I would say like the three studios that have been like really influential in shaping Indian film music is Arki Studios, Navketan Studios, and Yashraj Studios. And I would love to see somebody just, or the same people, talk about all the music because it's a very specific, like Yash Chopra had a very specific idea of the kind of music he wanted in his films.
Yes.
And that is what, Aditya and Uday were also talking about, like how they had a music room and, it was very involved. The whole family was very involved in what the sound was going to be, etc. So yeah, I would love to see something about their music. And
sorry,
also,
what's Navketan? Which studio is that? Navketan? I don't know that.
That's the Devanand and his brothers.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to see like a Dharma version of this. I'd love to see a Subhash Ghai version of this. There's a lot of other ones that are, even in one of our RK studios would be great. And I think they probably also have great archives that we would want to watch.
Yes.
So those could be like some good ideas, but,
Dharma won't work because Karan is too overexposed.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Also, they don't have an archive, right? They don't have like
Karan and Dharma.
Yeah. It did. I think I saw a lot this take about like people were feeling sad about RK Studios being left behind. Like it didn't, reach what YRF did. I think for very clear reasons. I understand why.
Yes.
But it is still sad that it was such a big studio. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's
absolutely.
It's crazy that that legacy is kind of, in terms of production and film production, is not going anywhere. I guess the actor line will continue.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of filmmaking.
Because who owns it now? It must be Ranbir, no? Ranbir should probably. I remember something like he was living at his granny's house and he was kind of taking care of it or something like that. That was between the breakup with Katrina and.
That was ages ago. The studio burnt down.
Yeah.
That's when I think it was like kind of the end. Like, nobody thought to like, okay, let's try and preserve it or rebuild it or anything. They were like, okay, well, it's gone. And it was so. That was kind of heartbreaking and disappointing.
Yeah. Okay, let's wrap it up. I think we're going to continue talking about it, but this is it for this episode for the people that are not on Patreon. I think next episode we're continuing our Yash Chopra discussion with his last movie, Jab Tak Hai Jaan. Shakila, Get Filmy, where can people find you online?
Just get_filmy on Twitter. That's all I've got.
Amrita?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at khandaan.substack.com. And we're also on Instagram and Twitter at Khandaan Podcast.
Yeah. And so we are doing a giveaway on the newsletter. And I want to actually say this. Normally, these giveaways are only for the UK only. But since we have Patreon, we can now send it further along. So these are the benefits. If people sign up to Patreon, it gives us the support that we can start doing these kind of cool things, like the giveaway making it international or having like a meetup in London. So sign up from $1 and get a longer version of this episode that you just listened to. And otherwise, drop us an email at youpodcasting@gmail.com. Leave us a review on Apple Podcast. And thanks for listening.
Khandaan